If you're thinking about moving to Chicago and you're considering which neighborhood should you move to, this video is for you. I've lived in Chicago for about 7 years now. In this video, I'm gonna break down the top 6 neighborhoods that you should consider moving to in the year of 2023. These are all neighborhoods that I've actually lived in, so I'm gonna break down the pros, the cons, the rent trends. We'll also talk about things to do in each of the neighborhoods, key grocery stores, and key drugstores that are in the general area. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Number 6 is Gold Coast. Gold Coast is the place to go if you want to be close to a lot of those luxurious designer stores. It definitely rivals some of those expensive neighborhoods in New York or San Francisco. It's very traditional. You'll see a lot of those limestone exteriors, a lot of Art Deco features, golden doors, and just very like historic architecture. It's so charming, like just walking around looking at all the apartments. You are super close to the lake, so you can walk to the lakefront. You can also go hang out in this spot called Viagra Triangle, which like I absolutely love doing. Viagra Triangle is basically like a little neighborhood park, if you will. It has a giant like fountain in the middle, and it's surrounded by all these very popular bougie restaurants. Okay, so like Gibson, but basically everyone just like hangs out in Viagra Triangle. You eat food, people are like playing cards. I loved going there and just people watching because you never know what you're gonna find, and also you'll always get hit on when you go there. So if you want some entertainment, that's something to do. Gold Coast is also the ideal location for high-end shopping. So if you're into luxury shopping like Chanel or Maze, you're like a block away from Mag Mile, so you can go shopping for days. I lived there for a while and I liked it. It was actually during COVID, so I didn't really get the full experience, but I do hang out around Gold Coast a lot just because I like the energy, I like the vibes there. So there are a ton of restaurants. Let's get into a few of those. There's 3 Arts Cafe, Gibson Steakhouse, Lux Bar, Hugo's Frog Bar, Le Colonial, which is Vietnamese, exceptional. There's Fig and Olive, I love that place too, and then Dock Beach. Things to do around there: you can go luxury shopping, you can go to Oak Street Beach, go get your tan on. The beach is literally right there. You can go hang out in Bloomingdale's, go shopping, but I like to go to the little cafe that's on the top floor. Actually, it's on floor 5. There's also the Drake Hotel if you want to get like high tea or something. You can do all your grocery shopping at Jewel Osco, which is like the best spot to go. That's where I went. Rent is kind of expensive, but for a studio here, you can see it's about $1,500, $1,600 a month or so. Number 5 is Lakeview. It's a neighborhood that's just 4 miles north of Chicago's Loop. It's known for the lavish dining, excellent theater performances, and notable walkability. If you want to be close to the heart of the city, like downtown, like the Loop area, or just like River North area, but you also enjoy having extra space within your apartment, like you like storage, you like to be able to like move around if you want to, then Lakeview will definitely be the neighborhood that you want to look into more. The neighborhood is spread across 3.1 square miles and has a walking score of 90. So it makes it the 14th most walkable place in the city. You really don't need a car at all. You'll probably just regret it if you have a car, because parking would all be like in the street, or you'd be paying extra parking per month with your landlord. There's actually a couple of neighborhoods within Lakeview: Boys Town, Lakeview East, Wrigleyville, Belmont Harbor, East Ravenwood, Lakeview Central, and Southport Corridor. So when I lived in Lakeview, I was actually right off the Belmont stop, and I was right next to Target and this like sex shop. It was honestly a legit apartment. It was huge. It was a great location because it was so close to the Belmont Red Line stop, super convenient. And then I could also walk to the Belmont Harbor, and I would always go for runs along that area. So let's talk about rent. So when I lived in Lakeview, I actually had a roommate, so we split the rent, and I think my rent was like around $800, except that roommate was a nightmare. So honestly, I don't even know if it was worth it. So the 2023 rent for a studio is $1,200, which isn't terrible. Things to do in Lakeview include going to Wrigley Field if you like the Cubs. That's definitely a fun activity. They also have a lot of concerts at Wrigley Field, so you know, you could check those out. I saw the Lumineers one time at Wrigley Field, and I thought the acoustics and the sound quality were absolutely terrible. I actually just got up and left. And then finally, the Vic Theater, which is where they do like stand-up comedy, things like that. What type of food places are around there? The most important thing. There's a spot called Cheesy's, which is really famous for their grilled cheese sandwiches. There's a spot called Wood, which is like traditional American food, but really cool atmosphere as well. And Sather's, you literally have to go there for breakfast. They're famous for their cinnamon rolls. apples, and you walk inside and you'll smell them and just be like, I need to have 5. There's also another spot I love to go to a lot. It's called IDOF, or I Dream of Falafel. So if you like Mediterranean food, it's kind of like a fast casual setting. In terms of grocery stores, you have a couple of options, but I always went to Target and Mariano's. The Mariano's in Lakeview is absolutely huge, okay? You could get lost in that grocery store. It's crazy. Let's jump into the next neighborhood. Neighborhood number 4 in Chicago is Lincoln Park. I loved Lincoln Park. It's a very like traditional, classic Chicago experience, okay? So if you're searching for a vibrant neighborhood with plenty of character and green space, then Lincoln Park is definitely your spot and possibly your new home. It's tough to imagine one neighborhood that can just fulfill all of your needs, but I think Lincoln Park definitely does a good job of it. It kind of gives you that neighborhood suburban vibe, but then also you're still in the city, so you kind of get a little bit of everything. No matter who you are, no matter what you like, Lincoln Park will do you right. It's a good place to raise a family. It's safe, a good place for like to walk around and like find nice restaurants, go to the lake. You have a little bit of the historic charm. Lincoln Park also is home to DePaul, which is where I went to school. In terms of rent, when I lived in Lincoln Park, I was off of Armitage, like the Brown Line stop, and I also had a roommate, and I think I paid around, I think that one was like $800 as well. And this doesn't include utilities. Rents for a 2-bedroom in Lincoln Park in May of 2023 is about $3.1K. It's worth it because you're much closer to the city or like the Loop. So if you want to go downtown for work, or maybe just like because you like going downtown more often, you're like right in the middle. So it's going to be like a quick like 10-minute train ride or so. Things to do in Lincoln Park include, obviously you have to go to the Lincoln Park Zoo. It's absolutely free. You walk inside, all the pretty animals. I used to run all the time through Lincoln Park, and I loved it. You could also go to the Chicago History Museum. I've never gone there, but it's something to do. Lincoln Park, so it's an actual park, and it's just gorgeous. There's manicured gardens, there's beautiful walking paths. It's really pretty. You obviously have the lakefront as well with like cemented sidewalk and beaches too. The hidden lily pond, which is really peaceful just to like walk around in. Well, you have Trader Joe's and Jewel in terms of grocery stores. There's also Whole Foods, but I'm not sure if that one's open still. I religiously went to that Whole Foods in Lincoln Park all the time. I loved it. In terms of food, there's a spot you absolutely have to go to, Pequod's. Everyone raves about it. I've actually never been there. The most deep dish pizza you could eat. Then there's a spot I love. It's called Pasta Palooza, and they have the most exceptional pasta dishes, and it's like pretty affordable too. Like you could spend less than $20 for like a dinner out. Family owned, really nice owner, really good. Speaking of pasta, there's another place called the Pasta Bowl, which is really delicious too. Finally, you absolutely have to go to Sushi Para. They do all you can eat sushi for like $25, which is insane. So you get like super fresh sushi and just not drop a huge bag. It's awesome. Number 3 is the neighborhood of Streeterville. Streeterville is a lakeside neighborhood. It has the most gorgeous sunrises. I will just run on the lake right in front of Streeterville just to catch the sunrises, okay? Because they're that gorgeous. I'll throw some pictures up here so that you can believe me, okay? If you want to be downtown, you want to be close to the bars, you want to be close to restaurants, and you also want to get the lakefront views, Streeterville is definitely going to be the place for you. Definitely a lively neighborhood. It's close to the Magnificent Mile as well, so you can easily walk over, go shopping for a little bit, and then you're also very close to Navy Pier. Go check out the Ferris wheel, go walk around, check out the shops. There's also a new like hotel that they just put in there recently. People call it the Mag Mile. That's what I call it, but just so you know, if you're coming to Chicago, I'm giving you the tips, okay? When you're in Streeterville, it's nice to be close to the Loop. Like you could walk to the Loop, you could walk to River North. You're really close to all the most important things. If you want to get that like downtown city vibe, like New York City vibe without like the craziness, like a little bit more clean, then Streeterville is definitely the move, okay? What's in the area? Let's get into it. There's a huge Target. You know what? This Target's only one level, so it's not like the biggest Target in the world, but it does the job. Across the street or like a block over is Whole Foods, and that is my Whole Foods. Like I go to that Whole Foods like, oh my gosh, probably once a day. I literally love it. It's absolutely huge. They have everything you could possibly imagine. There's also a grocery store called Bockelwinkle, which is a newer grocery store. I don't see a lot of people in that place a lot. It's another option. There's also a Walgreens and CVS really close by. Northwestern Hospital and University is staged right within Streeterville. You'll see people wearing scrubs walking around all the time. In terms of coffee shops, there's a spot called Foxtrot, which is super good. There's also a cinema and arcade. There's also Lakeshore Park. This is a beautiful park that has a grassy space, so you can play like freeze tag, you can play like football, soccer, whatever you want. It's also an area to like walk your dog as well. There's also Bennett Park. In the true city spirit, the park is built on top of a parking garage, which is kind of interesting. And then of course, Navy Pier, the Milton Lee Olive Park, which is not that far from the beach. It's one of the largest parks in Streeterville. It's probably one of the best spots to see the skyline. There are a few spots within Chicago that are like, oh my God, that's beautiful. This is one of them. And then finally, you have Ohio Street Beach. I've never lived in Streeterville, but I've lived like super close by. Studios sit at around like 2K or so. If you just like look at the trends, it's definitely more expensive, but there's a reason why. Neighborhood number 2 is West Loop. West Loop is the home of Restaurant Row. And if you're a huge foodie, honestly, just this is your home. You need to move to West Loop. It's not going to be like the full-blown like city vibe, and it's not like that residential vibe. It's kind of like industrial, modern, kind of like sexy. More recently, West Loop has started to become more popular. Before, it was just like a ton of warehouses and no one really lived over there until McDonald's put their headquarters in West Loop. I worked there for a little bit. Google also set up their headquarters over in West Loop. More restaurants have been opening over there, and then you have a lot of classics, like all of the goat restaurants, which are absolutely amazing. We'll talk about those in a moment. Are, you know, people literally travel from around the world just to go to those restaurants. They've also been building a lot more high rises over there just because the demand has been increasing. Restaurant Row is actually called like the Fulton Market District, and so it's the go-to spot for shoppers, art admirers. There's a lot of like art galleries you can go to, and food fanatics. Okay, so like that's me. There's different eateries. There's like a ton of different bars, very unique coffee shops, absolutely delicious restaurants. If I had to pick any of my favorite restaurants, they would all be right in West Loop. And you're also a short distance away from Greektown. You have to check out Greek Islands because it's like the most authentic, fresh Greek food you could possibly get. Let's talk about rents in West Loop. I've never lived in West Loop, but I know a couple people that do. If you're getting a studio apartment, it's going to be about 2.5 or 2.6K. Everyone is going to West Loop. Like, it's going to be the new River North, and it's right by the loop and all the train stations, so you can easily jump on a train to go to the suburbs. There's like great CTA right there. There's like the Blue Line. There's a ton of buses. Let's talk about all the best restaurants in West Loop. DuckDuckGo, Lyra, Proxy, Rosemary, Monteverde, Alla Vita, Nobu, Sierra, Girl and the Goat, and Abba. I've tried all these restaurants. They're so good. I go for runs through West Loop just to look at the restaurants and look at people eating the food and like smiling because it makes me so happy, and like smelling the food. Like, West Loop is insane. Things to do in West Loop besides eating food: you could do the Airy Ancient Baths, which is like a super luxurious bathhouse. It's kind of expensive, but well worth it. There's also Union Park, so there is a dog park. There's also Emporium Fulton Market, which is a kind of like an arcade area, but there's also like drinks and stuff, foosball, air hockey, etc. It's fun. I've been there. It's like cheap to like play foosball and like hockey and all that. There's also the Wander Museum. A lot of people like to go there for like those Instagram photos you might see. I'll throw some up here so you have an example. You have the Punch Bowl Social, where you can play a round of bowling. There's also private karaoke and then a dining experience as well. I've never ate the food there, but in terms of grocery stores, there's a massive Whole Foods, which I love that Whole Foods too. It's too far away from me, like where I live now. Basically, it's beautiful. There's also a massive Mariano's as well. 2 stories, huge. You'll love it. In terms of drugstores, there's a CVS, there's a Walgreens. Like, you're set. You're super close to highway access too. So if you like travel for work, or if you just want to like go on the highway to like, you know, get out of Chicago, you're literally right there. And now the best neighborhood to live in Chicago, number 1 is Lakeshore East. I absolutely love it. I've been living in this apartment for like 3 years now, and it has been the best experience ever. This is honestly a dream come true. Like, this has been the apartment, the neighborhood, the experience that I always dreamed of since I was little. I have a doorman. He knows my name. I have a pool. I have a hot tub. I have a sauna. I have a workout studio like within my building. I have a laundry in unit. I have a beautiful kitchen. Literally, it's everything that I ever wanted, and I'm so close to the lake. I literally catch the sunrise every single day because I'm like right outside the lake. Like, you're so close to everything. I walk to work, it's like 10 minutes. This neighborhood is absolutely amazing. Plus, if you've heard a lot of things about Chicago, like Chicago's super dangerous, you're gonna get like, you know, shot or whatever, I would say if you live in Lakeshore East, knock on wood, but nothing really bad happens over here because there's a ton of cops that are like stationed on Wacker Drive. There's cops everywhere, and then you have like a doorman basically guarding the building all the time. Knock on wood, I've never had a bad experience. It's definitely Chicago's best kept secret, I would say. So it's right next to Lake Michigan, right? Beautiful views. There's a huge park, about 6 acres of botanical park, okay? Beautiful trees. There's an amazing dog park as well. It honestly feels like a whole nother city. Like, I don't feel like I'm in Chicago. The park at Lakeshore East is one of the city's most friendly dog parks, and it's been recognized for its multiple award-winning designs. It's won Best New Park in Chicago, and it's populated with over 500 trees and 20 different species, which is crazy. There's also like a gated area, so you can just let your dog run freely. And then surrounding that park is a one-way street lined with luxury high-rise apartments. When you think about the restaurants that are in this neighborhood, I would say it's definitely limited. Brown Bag Seafood, which is like, you know, fast food. Aggies Diner, Gordo's Tiny Taco. There's a Chinese spot called Ming Hin Cuisine, Abley on the Park. It used to be the steakhouse, but it didn't make it during COVID. You are walking distance to Streeterville, to the Loop, to River North. Like, you could walk anywhere and find an amazing spot. In terms of grocery stores, because that's super important, you have Mariano's literally right there. There's also a CVS as well, pharmacy. Let's talk about rent. The average rent is $2,851, and I would say that's probably for like a 1-bedroom. So like right now I'm paying about $2,200 for a month for like a studio, and like my studio is a decent size and I have a balcony and all that. Like, you could see the balcony. And obviously inflation has happened. I lived here for 3 years. I didn't lock that price in when I first moved in. It does a job, and like honestly I'm so happy. Like, this has been a dream come true for me. Like, this is where I've always imagined and like envisioned my like Chicago journey to kind of end. It's been my favorite neighborhood so far, and like they're all so unique and special, so it's like fun to hop around. Things to do in Lakeshore East, so you're literally right on the river, so you can walk down the Riverwalk, walk around there. I go for night walks on the Riverwalk, which is awesome. You can also just hang out in Lakeshore East Park and just like people watch. You can catch a yacht cruise as well. You could also walk to the lakefront. That's so peaceful. I love doing that. Or catch the sunrise. That's always fun. You can also walk to Millennium Park, which is like literally right in the backyard, like less than 5 minutes of a walk. The best neighborhood to move to if you want that full-blown like city vibe lifestyle where you go to all the cool restaurants and like you go to yoga classes with your girlfriends and you want to be able to go to the lake and stuff and like just live in a, you know, luxurious spot. I would say either live in Streeterville or Lakeshore East. If you want more of like that historic vibe, kind of like family oriented, but also have, you know, younger people in like their 20s, lots of bars and restaurants, I would say do Lincoln Park because you get a little bit of both. If you want more space and you enjoy the lake, I would say go to Lakeview. Remember, the closer you get to the Loop, the more expensive and luxurious apartments are going to be. You can obviously find gems randomly throughout the city, but it's rare and people will like hop on those almost instantly. If you want like old school, old money, wealth, amazing restaurants, Viagra Triangle action, then I would say definitely go to Gold Coast. I think if you're coming to Chicago, you're moving to Chicago, you really want to get that full experience. So first thing you should consider when thinking about what neighborhood you want to live in is how much space you want in your apartment. Then second, I would look at price. And then number 3, like general proximity, like what's around you in that neighborhood, if that area vibes with your style. Those are all my favorite neighborhoods. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I think you're really gonna like this video I threw up here. I'm gonna talk about all of the best Chicago restaurants that you have to check out. So once you move here to Chicago, you need to try all these restaurants, okay? So I'll see you in that video. Bye.